So I've talked before about the games we play in society, and the current dominant game is called I'm More Tolerant Than You Are. And we can see it has now infected every component, every part of society. There's no escaping it, whether it's your entertainment, video games, sports, movies. Everyone deep down, what they're playing is the game I'm More Tolerant Than You. And now we could see even the game of Scrabble is playing this game. You might think you're playing Scrabble, but you've been sucked in culturally to this game called I'm More Tolerant Than You Are. And so the word game is banning what they call 400 offensive terms, including some slurs. The interesting thing about this is they don't tell you what words are banned. There's 400 words that are banned, and yet you're supposed to just sort of know. So you're going to have these words. I mean, I don't even know, I've never even heard some of these. Bog trotter, bohunk, colchies, I don't know what these mean. And so you're just going to have to walk on eggshells, apparently, while you're playing competitive Scrabble. It's no longer a word game. You're going to be able to spell some of these, like mulatto. I thought that was just a descriptive term. I thought that was the official word. I didn't realize that was some sort of slur. But as I've also talked about, there are competing games that are coming up. As this game infects absolutely everything, not only does it get boring, but it hurts or has led to the death of many, many people, a great deal of suffering, and people will just get sick of it. Just as in the 90s, they got tired of I'm more Christian than you are, or the hippies, I'm more far out than you are, or the previous generation, I'm more patriotic than you are. What happens is you'll have these inversions. Whoever is at the top of the grievance hierarchy will then flip and they will be at the bottom, and whoever is at the bottom of the hierarchy, it will flip and they're suddenly on top. And as I've argued, we're going to see a flip to a new game called I'm doing more to save Western civilization than you are. And this is just an ad that popped up on when I was going through the news this morning. It says, "We are in a war for the soul of our nation. Join the long game." And so you're going to see more and more stuff like this. I mean, it's just about preserving Western civilization, the leftist takeover of our colleges and cultures, and how, this is pretty run-of-the-mill Republican. But they're working on getting young people to play the long game. And it is a game that conservatives can win because leftists aren't having children. It's something like 1.4, whereas Christians are having over 2 children per couple, so more than replacement rates. It's almost a generation, and this whole leftist phenomenon will just burn itself out. Combine that with very unhealthy lifestyles, heavy drug use, these things will all take their toll, not eating meat. And you're going to see just a demographic shift. It's one of the reasons they have to push so hard for immigration, because they think they're bringing in more nihilistic, self-destructive communalists like themselves, but of course they're not. Actually, even the Mexican people are very devout Catholics. They're not going to be voting for upside-down clown world stuff. So I thought this is just a first glimpse at what I think is coming. And you're going to see the culture shift. Things that appear impossible today will become very possible. I think mass deportations, and not just America, but across the West, is something we're going to see. We're starting to see even in France. The Macron and the French people are kind of fed up with Islam. And I have advocated for a policy that I call voluntary exile. If you're part of the Hate America crowd, we should have a love it or leave it policy where voluntarily it's like, okay, if you hate America, we'll open up a window and will give you 6 months median pay to leave. You can go to any country you want. Here's money. You have to sell all your property, all your investments, and you and your children can never come back. But I think part of preserving the West is going to involve getting people out. And you can see the conflict here, because the left is still going to be playing this "I'm more tolerant than you" to an extraordinary degree, to a degree that it terrifies all but the most dedicated leftists. Talib here, see, because you get into a game, you get so into the game, it's like collecting the little coins in Mario, and you're jumping up and down and screaming because you missed the little coins that go tling when you grab them, not realizing outside of that game is a real world. Like outside of the game, I'm more tolerant than you are. The Russians and the Chinese are making real moves to conquer territory. And they're not interested if they have a woman jet fighter pilot or not. They want the best pilot. They want the best general, the best soldiers, the best land. They're not worried about colonialism. They're not feeling guilty. They are conquering. They are taking over, and we are just oozing weakness. And you can see this is the turn, right? This is the point where the culture and the bulk of American people start turning away from "I'm more tolerant than you are" and start moving into what's going to be initially a much more fun, much more logical game of "I'm doing more to save the West than you are." Democrats brace for defund the police movement to damage party into midterms. Now, this is big because they have the House, they have a coin flip in the Senate, and they have the presidency. So, in the wake of George Floyd's death and other high-profile incidents, calls to defund the police, a movement Democrat lawmakers largely supported, rang out across the country. Several cities did that, including nearby Seattle here, and crime rates soared. Demoralized cops quit, and after half the country vilified them, leaving police forces spread thin as BLM and Antifa riots led to widespread looting, arson, and property damage throughout the country, not to mention massive job loss. Here in Seattle, we lost a $1.5 billion investment bank that would have brought money in, would have created all sorts of jobs, from construction workers to janitors to accountants to everything on up, managerial jobs. Those people need schools, those people need medical treatment, dentists, doctors, better roads, better parking, car salesmen. Like when you knock out $1.5 million or $1.5 billion investment bank because of all the crime, you've just crushed the local economy. And both Minneapolis and Portland woefully regretted defunding their police departments, and in fact, now they've gone on to refund them in many cases. So, Democrats won both the White House and retook the Senate in 2020. The impact of defunding the police took its toll, contributing to their very narrow majorities in both chambers. Of course, Democrats have trouble in midterms to begin with, and officials are blaming it on this defund the police. But what's interesting is they can't back down. They can't take a more moderate position, because that would be reneging on the game "I'm more tolerant than you." Like, they have to continue one-upping each other. And that's how this whole thing goes seraphic, nihilistically self-destructive, and implodes. And that's where you'll see the game, the long game, begin to take over. Republicans believe defund the police narrative is a political gift they can use to win swing voters and energize their own political base. Yeah, swing voters. Yeah, there's no one who's not playing this insane game that's like, oh yeah, defund the police, that makes sense. And you can see Rashida Tlaib. She's done with those who condone government-funded murder. Moderate Dems realize this may come back to bite them. Here you can see her tweet. It wasn't an accident. Policing in our country is inherently and intentionally racist. Dwante Wright, who, by the way, tried to rob a young lady at gunpoint, choked her, pointed the gun back at her, and she fought him off, to her credit. Daunte Wright was met with aggression and violence. What about Daunte's aggression and violence? I don't know. Don't talk about it. I am done with those who condone government-funded murder. No more policing. No more incarceration. No more militarization. It can't be reformed. In the game, I'm more tolerant than you. The police department cannot be reformed. So they want to abolish policing across the nation, apparently. And what this means is they're talking about, this defund the police was just a terrible drag on the Democrat Party. It really was. Don't kid yourself. Veteran Democratic strategist James Carville told Bill Kristol he realizes it's a drag and the House is up for grabs. And if the House goes, and the Senate's a toss-up, all of a sudden you're talking about Supreme Court, the House, and the Senate all flipping, and Biden doesn't even know what planet he's on right now. You have an extremely weak president, and then all of a sudden you lose hold on all these other positions of power. It begins to spell the end of a lot of this madness, and let's hope so. It's really getting crazy. Like, how many more people need to be hurt? So you can see them. They're trying to push back. We can't allow them, meaning the opposition, to try to paint this picture that we are anti-police. Is it really painting it at that point? Or is it just the position? We're just pro-good policing. Who isn't? I'm pro-good things and anti-bad things. And so you see this internal fighting. You see the complete nihilistic self-destruction, and it's all based on the hedonistic down-spiraling that then was taken over by the managerial class. And the problem is the emotional momentum just isn't going to dissipate. It's just going to have to be hard checked. And I think that's coming. I think I'm more tolerant than you is coming to an end. And this is what that looks like. And the people playing, I'm doing more to save Western civilization than you, well, they're just getting started.